Welcome to From Barriers to Breakthroughs, the podcast that helps you create the life, business, and love you truly want. Not with silver bullets or magical pills, but by removing what's actually holding you back. Here's what nobody tells you about getting unstuck. It has nothing to do with what you know, but it has everything to do with that switch within that allows you to turn that knowledge into action. We'll explore powerful stories, breakthrough research, and game-changing strategies so you can finally break through and thrive. Your breakthrough begins now. Welcome back to the From Barriers to Breakthroughs podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Mountain, and we're here to talk about all the different ways that we can get out from behind the barriers and the blockades that we set up for ourselves. The good news about these blocks is that because we set them up, we can tear them down. In today's episode, we're going to cover something really big, and it's been my obsession for the past 6 years of my life, and will probably continue to be for the remainder. And the question is simply, why aren't we doing the work we know we should be doing? Specifically, I want to talk today about knowing, all the knowledge that we accumulate over the years. How many courses, classes, conferences, how many coaches have you hired? How many programs have you bought and really done nothing with? The answer, if you're like, is like the vast majority of the things that I have learned and therefore that I know, I have done nothing with. Well, you're not alone, because the statistics show that 93% of people never implement what they hear at these conferences, classes, courses, coaches, all of these things. They just do nothing with it. It accumulates. And the way that I look at this is it's like there's two cliffs, the big gully in the middle. On one side is everything that we know, all that we learn. And that side is piled so high, we can't even see the top of it. It's just piles and piles and piles. Imagine everything you know being a book. And the books are stacked one on top of the other, and they're so high, you couldn't see the top book if you tried. Even a ladder wouldn't get you there. Because what we do as human beings is we accumulate these things, trying to convince ourselves that the more we know will turn into more confidence. And that's how we think that we're going to be able to do these amazing things that we want to do with our lives. But here's the problem. In order for all of those amazing things on the one side, the stacks and stacks of books, the accumulative knowledge and expertise that we have, in order for that to actually add a value to your life, so whether it's your life or your work or your relationships, you've got to do something with it. And if you look at all of the research and you read the books and you listen to everything from Marcus Aurelius and the ancient Greeks up until today, because this problem is not a new problem. It goes back thousands and thousands of years. And everyone will say, you must put things into practice. Yes, absolutely. The thinking part of our brain understands that 100%. I know what I should be doing. I know, but I'm not. And that is the black hole that I have gone into because I would like an answer to that question. I want an answer as to what is in that gully between those two cliffs, the one on, call it the left, with all of the things that we know, and the one on the right, which is really empty, which is all of the things that we do. And there's a bridge that must be built in between those two things. But the specific qualities and characteristics and the things that go into making that bridge are different for everybody, because what's in the middle and the extent and how wide that gulf is between the two sides is different for everyone. And so when you look at it, one of the number one things that goes into why we know but we do not do is actually part of our brain. So we have three brains, very simplistically put. We have an emotion brain, which is then covered with a thinking brain, which is then covered with a logic brain. And they all work together and independently. The emotion brain is the fastest, and it kicks off first. And the most important thing to think about in regards to this emotional brain is that it does not think. So that's why we can get really frustrated that we know, but we don't do. So when you think about it, the big reason we do not do has everything to do with the non-thinking, non-logical part of our brain. It's our emotions. And people don't like looking at their emotions. It's not an easy thing to do, to break apart what am I actually feeling. When we're children, we're often taught use your words. So describe how you're feeling. My youngest is autistic and OCD and anxiety and a whole bunch of things. It's a wonderful cornucopia. So raising him required a different set of parenting skills and a lot of help from me as a parent to figure out how can I really understand what was going on in his brain. Because a 3-year-old tiny little thing that doesn't understand how his brain works it just is. And I, as a parent, had to understand how can I decipher what's going on. So when he was small and couldn't read, and I needed him to explain, like, what are you actually feeling, kiddo? I would get this piece of paper from his pediatrician, and it had all these little faces on it and all the different kinds. So imagine the emojis of today, but used in this little chart and graph. Are you not just happy, sad, mad, which are, by the way, the default emotions we stick to as adults? Not useful. We need to get something more complex. So on this little sheet, it had words like disgusted, overwhelmed, frustrated, excited, calm. And with all of these different kinds of complex emotional pictures, and then, of course, if you want to look at it from an adult perspective or someone that can read language, my son was able to express to me in very complex and very helpful and specific terms what was going on inside his sweet little head. And because of that training, even now as a 19-year-old at time of recording, we're able to have much more in-depth conversations because he is already raised to use complex emotional language. And when you think about it, just simply naming what's going on, just what is actually happening inside my head and inside your body, because your emotion brain kicks off not only these feelings, but there's physical sensations you're going to have. If you're frightened, I don't know what happens to you when you're frightened, but when I get scared, the backs of my hands, this like fizz, it's like this giant electrical shock that's coming out on the back of my hands. It's the weirdest thing. When I'm angry, our hands go into fists, or, our face contracts and we get these like lines in between our eyeballs. We sweat, right? If we're frightened or if we're angry or someone's coming at us and they're being very aggressive, our stomach is going to clench. Everything just kind of tenses up. And this happens without us thinking about it. It happens because emotionally we are having a response. Once you can understand, even just by coming up with complex language, I have this awesome, well, I don't, it's all over the internet. You can get them everywhere. It's called the feeling wheel or the emotion wheel. And all this is a series of simple words at the center. And then as you go out, there's 2 more rings and they become a little bit more complex in language and a little bit more specific in what they mean. So as an example, you can say, I'm mad. Well, what kind of mad are you? Well, I'm feeling, I'm feeling hurt. That's a form of anger. It's not actually a form of sadness. Being hurt is actually a form, like the root emotion comes from anger and being mad. But you can actually go a step out from that. Like, you're not just hurt, you're jealous, or maybe you're envious, or maybe you're disappointed. And all of these kind of like, oh yeah, you know what? That's the kind of angry I am. You can also be full of rage. You can be furious. These are all derivatives of angry, right? You can feel selfish. Selfishness is actually a form of anger, which is fascinating. But you can also feel things like happy or joyful. Derivatives of that word would include things like excited, and maybe you feel daring. Those are 2 levels deriving from the word joyful or the word happiness. You can feel energetic. You can feel creative. You can feel extravagant. You can feel enthusiastic. And so as you can see, this sounds so simple. And it is because it is so simple that it is so easy to forget or to overlook. We think that in order to solve such a huge problem, like, come on, Rebecca, you said it dated back to the ancient Greeks. It probably goes way back beyond that. It's a human condition. If you're saying, Rebecca, it's something as simple as that, that we can start to build this bridge between what I know and being able to put it into action, whether it's being able to have some conversations you've been avoiding, maybe it's launching a new business or just taking a new idea up to your boss. You're telling me that just giving a name, a more complex name to my emotions will help me build that bridge. And I'm here to tell you, absolutely. Is it going to be everything you need? Nope. We still have a lot more to do, but my guess is about 80 to 85% of achieving success in accomplishing, in taking action on something that you know is derived from your emotions. And all the research I have done about emotional resilience and what the most successful people in the world do comes down to and begins with being able to provide a more complex description of what it is going on. Because what that does, which is really cool, is it starts to connect that free flowing, firing all cylinders emotion brain with that more logical and thinking brains. And when you bring all of them together, that's when you get to use the powerhouse mind that you have to direct everything in your world, your body, your attention, your focus, your productivity, everything comes all into alignment when all of your brains are working together. So you can't let your emotion brain just like run ragged all over the place, because you're going to be a bit of a mess. You're going to be unfocused. You're going to be unclear. You'll be unconfident. Think of a good word, stick the word "un" in front of it, and that's what you will be: unmotivated, unconfident, unsure, all of those things. When you are able to provide a little bit more clarity on the emotions that you're feeling, you're giving your brain a moment to slow down a second and go, what's really going on? And now you can start investigating this. I'll be talking about there's a framework around that called RAIN in another episode. But for now, what I really want you to concentrate on is the idea that you know something. So think of something that you know that if you put into practice on a regular basis, it doesn't have to be like, a morning routine or something you have to stick to, every single day, because that's really tough to do. Go from 0 to 7 days a week, right? Not a lot of people succeed at that. But just think maybe bringing up an idea or starting a conversation that kind of makes you a little bit nervous. And you want to do this thing because you know that when you do it, it's going to deliver amazing results for you. It's going to change things in your world. Now think about the emotions you have around it. And if you want, you can even pause this episode, grab out, your notes on your phone or a notebook or a back of a napkin, and write down some of the words that come to mind when it comes to what you feel, and write those things down. Just that act of writing those down, even if you only have 2, that qualifies. You're now starting to engage your thinking brain with your emotion brain, bringing it a little bit more into control so that you are managing your world. The people who are the most unfocused and the most unhappy are the ones that don't figure out that sequence. They let themselves be driven by their emotions, and so they quit too soon. They stop before they even try, right? Or they say things or do things that they really regret later. And I really don't want that for you. My mission is to help everyone who is listening and or watching this, depending on how you're consuming this content, with having the ability to always get what you want. It doesn't matter how big your dream is. Your dream could be, I just want to be comfortable. And that is as far as you want to take it, because man, that is it for you. Maybe you've had a real struggle with the way your life has gone so far, and you just want a life without struggle. It doesn't matter where that is. So there's usually a certain level of finances that you have to have in place, but relationships also need to be stable as well. And just achieving that stability is enough. Or maybe you want to run $100 billion company and just want to knock it out of the park. In all cases, it doesn't matter if you're someone like Ray Dalio, who runs a $3 trillion hedge fund, or you're, the person at the corner store who's just making ends meet, but they're doing exactly what they want to do. everyone has the opportunity to do this. And I will tell you, because Ray talks about it all the time in his books and in his podcasts, that emotional resilience are at the core of success and of achievement and of contentment. And so when you look at it, you know, and I know that we as human beings are born and bred to be staying in a familiar place, in our comfort zone. But I can't imagine anything more uncomfortable than our comfort zone, because usually in our comfort zone are unrequited dreams. They're the things that we know from the little bubble of safety we've created, or that what we think is safe, but this is what we do. We think we're in this safe place. From inside this bubble, we see reflected back to us the potential of what we could achieve, our dreams, those crazy ideas you really want to execute. But then we snap ourselves back for so many reasons. And that's a whole other complex cornucopia of emotions and thoughts and assumptions that we make about whether we can do something, or we hold back because of our worry about what other people are going to say or do about us if we put this crazy idea out into the world, or if we decided to broach a conversation. Perhaps we have these crazy imaginations and this catastrophic thinking of all the bad things that could happen. And so we snap back into that quote unquote comfort zone and to stay with what is familiar. But what is familiar is not necessarily what is good. And so if you're the kind of person that would really love to be able to take a good hard look at your life and say, okay, I'm just going to take this one thing, look at the side of, they have the two sides, right? Two sides of your little cliff with a big gulf in the middle. And on the one side is something that something if you did. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of them would grow their businesses exponentially if they would treat their phone less like it's going to bite them and eat them alive, and more like it's the gateway to millions and millions of dollars, if that's what they're chasing. But before they pick up this phone, they have feelings about what it's going to happen when they actually push the digits and make it ring. So when we turn away from doing the work we know we should be doing, you're having an emotional response. So let's take a few minutes to talk about that, because now you understand, okay, understanding emotions, that's going to help me figure out how to build the bridge between knowing and doing. That's great. So we have a clear list of how you feel, right? So take a minute again and look at the thing you want to do and the words that describe the feelings that you have about it. So that's sort of step one. Now we have to understand, how does that turn? If you're watching this on video, you see I'm waving my phone because it's the most common thing that I have to wave at people, because it's the most common thing people don't do, is to reach out and call, whether it's your mother or whether it's your, a prospect. When you decide not to make that call, because it is a choice, it's an emotional choice, but it is a choice. So let's say we're going to set up a scenario. I run my own business, and the number one way for me to grow is I've got to call people and see if they want what I have. And so I go to pick up my phone. Okay, so now I'm picking up my phone and I am immediately flooded with all of these feelings. And I could have feelings of feeling like I don't matter, like feeling like I'm going to screw it all up. So I lack confidence. I start to question myself. I'm full of self-doubt. Maybe I feel a little bit of shame because I don't feel like I've got what it takes. Like, who am I? Classic imposter syndrome stuff, right? So feelings of shame are coming up. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. I'm worried. Oh goodness, there's a whole bunch of words on here that I'd be like, rah, what am I going to do? I'm scared. I fear rejection. I fear judgment. I fear screwing it up. Right? I feel I don't want to be made fun of. And so all of these things, and all I've done is picked up the phone. I haven't even dialed a single number on this bad boy. But if I let my emotions run unchecked, guess what I'm going to do with this phone? I'm going to put it back down, and then I'm going to do something instead. And you know what's really interesting? Usually we have patterns of what we do immediately after putting down the proverbial phone. So again, think of the thing you want to do that you haven't been doing, or you haven't started, or you've been avoiding. what do you do instead? So commonly, this is really interesting, especially since COVID. Thank goodness that's over. But during COVID, when I would do my calls with my clients, with my private clients, and they would say, "Oh, I know I was supposed to do it, but I didn't do it." So as a coach, you can imagine how often I hear that. So one of my favorite questions to ask was, "Well, what did you do instead?" And most often there was a tremendous amount of silence on the other end before they would candidly admit to laundry. So anyone that works from home, especially unfortunately and perhaps stereotypically, women would go and they would do laundry. Or people would go, and this one actually has no gender bias whatsoever. Again, this is anecdotal from me working with my clients, so let's not just all get tizzied about it, right? So, another one that they would go and vacuum. I had a client who told me that she didn't do her work and vacuumed instead. So many times I told her, I'm going to fly to where she lives. I'm going to take her vacuum cleaner and snap it over my leg. That's how often she used that as an excuse. But because what happens is when we have something that we really want, we tend to have a big emotional reaction to it, right? So big positive, but equally, if not larger, a negative or a preemptive, what's the best word I'm looking for here? A stall out tactic, because the more we want something, the more we fear we're not going to get it. And so you can imagine the conflicting emotions that come into play when we're trying to do something like this. And again, it's a simple act of picking up the phone, but it's what that means. Picking up the phones means I'm going to be successful, but it could also cascade into, well, what if I become too successful? And what if I have no time? And then I'll never be able to do the fun things I want to do. And, so all of these things go through our minds at Mach 2. And so if we are not able to counteract the negative or crushing emotions and thoughts with the more positive facing and confident based, okay, I can do this kind of a thing, you're going to put it down. And because it makes us feel bad that we did not do what we were supposed to do, we feel shame. And our little brains do not like shame. We want to get rid of it as fast as humanly possible. So we'll do two things. One, we'll blame it on something else. I couldn't make the call because I am too busy. I don't have enough time. My business is slow because the market is slow. Yeah, right. Or the economy. Or I couldn't do the work today because my car broke down. Or my cat threw up on my shoes. So first off, we try to do is we try to push it away. It's like we breathe out really, really fast and harsh. And we try to get rid of this shame-based feeling because we don't like it. So the first thing we do is we blame. And it was interesting. I was reading a book called Dialed In by Dr. Dana Sinclair, and she wrote about this very specific thing. And so I thought, my immediate thought was like, oh, I don't do that. I'm a performance coach. I'd never do that. And I'm like, hang on, self-check. Because she just finished also writing about that in her book. So I thought, okay, let me do a self-check. Do I blame anything on my maybe not following up, or, is there something I'm hesitating to do or not really pushing myself? And when I did a real good self-check, I realized, yeah, you know what? It's easy. It's easy to blame anything. It's like, oh, well, business is slow in summer. Oh, there you go. I'm blaming the sky and this season as to why calls aren't coming in, or, meetings aren't being had, or whatever, my business being slow is. And what I realized was like, well, that's just an excuse. Because again, turned on its side, I know that the summers are always quieter. So when things get quieter, what should I be doing? I should be redoubling my efforts so that whatever quota in terms of meetings or clients that I want to achieve remains the same, but maybe my effort has to go up a little bit in the summer because I know it's coming. That's a different approach, but it requires effort, and it's definitely not as easy as just simply blaming the summer and taking it easy because it's the summer, and then having to go balls to the wall in September to try to pick up the slack. So the first thing we do when we decide emotionally, remember, you're not thinking decisions here. These are emotional decisions to put the phone back down or to not do the thing you're supposed to be doing. The first thing we do is blame. The second thing we do is we usually try to find the thing that comforts us the most or that puts things back in order. That's why people will tidy their desks, clean their house, do the laundry, vacuum, right? There's 1,000 different ways that we can reorder our environment because it makes us feel calm. It makes us feel safe and it makes us feel like we're doing something. And so think about, again, the thing you want to do. You have the list of emotions that you have. Self-check. What are you blaming as a reason or a cause that is driving your quote unquote inability to actually get that thing done? That is an interesting place to hang out, and you'll get a lot of insights and you'll catch yourself. And then the other catch for yourself is to say, what kind of self-calming, self-comforting thing do you normally do when you have emotionally chosen to turn away from doing that thing again? And when you understand your own patterns, you can start to do pattern disruption. You can, whenever you have this thing that you want to do, so again, I'm going to use using the phone as an example. I can go through the litany of emotions that I'm going to feel. All right, I'm going to recognize and I'm going to accept the fact that, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Okay, I've got a handle on that. I'm going to think about, like, what am I thinking about? Am I catastrophizing? Okay, let me just bring that down again into what do I know and what am I trying to do? And then when it comes to actually reaching for it, and you're going to get those feelings of like, no, 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 this is taking us out of our comfort zone. Your brain does not like it. It's going to bring all of the powers of self-doubt and, pulling you back and resistance. You will achieve massive emotional resistance when you go to break out of your comfort zone, when you break from the familiar pattern that your brain and your mind is so used to. So expect it, push through it, right? Because you can keep going, pick up the proverbial phone, think about what you're going to say, right? Practice or have some notes or whatever to kind of help you stay the course, because sometimes we just can't do it ourselves. We can't expect our brains to work for us 100%. Have some notes, have someone there that either can help you out or whatever you got to do. Dial the proverbial phone, because that phone conversation you're about to have is a hell of a lot easier than you think it's going to be. And when you put it down, you're going to tell yourself, that went pretty well. And the most important thing to wrap up this episode is to keep doing it. Because if you do it and you get good, the more you do it, the more you do something, the more confident you become. And then it becomes habit. And then you will wonder why you hesitated in the first place. If you pick up that thing, put it down, go, wow, that was great, high five yourself, and then wait 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to be just as hard as the first time you do it. So look at the thing or things that you want to do. Put a frequency plan together. How often do you want to do it? Every day, every week, every month, every year? Is it something, that is going to really contribute in a massive way to your life or your work or your relationships? And really picture that in your head. Dream a big dream of what's going to happen eventually as you get better and better at doing this. And understand that the vast majority of the time, when we decide to not do the thing we're supposed to be doing, we don't have a conversation, we don't pick up the phone, we don't send the email, right? We don't write that book, we don't make that speech. It's emotional. And so what's within you is not only the ability to hold yourself back, but it's also the ability to break down these self-imposed barriers. So you built them so you can break them down. And once the barriers are down, your natural talents and your natural abilities will simply present, and you're going to find that you have the most amazing time and that the results are 10, 20, 100 times better and more satisfying than you could have ever imagined. So thank you so much for joining me today. Do put these things into practice. It's not just a matter of listening. Listening is great. Think about the things you heard about today. Maybe you make that list of emotions. Maybe you grab an emotion wheel off of the internet And maybe the next time when you feel yourself pull back from the thing you want to do, I want you to picture a bridge between where you are right now and picture the result of what happens when you do that thing, and building out your emotional understanding and your emotional resilience is literally 80 to 85% of the work you are ever going to have to do, because that last 15 to 20%, you already know what to do and it's going to be easy. So can't wait to hear more about your journey, and I'll see you on the next episode of From Barriers to Breakthroughs. And there you have it, another step closer to removing what's been blocking your path. Remember, you already have everything you need inside you. Sometimes it just takes finding that one domino that's been holding back the rest. If today's episode helped you identify even one barrier you're ready to remove, then we're making some serious progress. To keep the breakthroughs coming, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode, and visit RebeccaMountain.ca for additional resources to help you bridge that gap between knowing and doing. This is Rebecca, and you've been listening to From Barriers